Admiral Haywan sat in her command chair, watching the stars through the clear walls of her ship's bridge. She had been patrolling the outer edge of known space for 3 months now. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. The Galactic Council needed to make sure no pirates or rebels were hiding in the empty regions between star systems. Her ship, the Crystal Sword, was one of the newest vessels in the Vectari fleet. Its crystal hull could withstand attacks from the most powerful weapons known to the galaxy. The crew of 200 worked smoothly together, their minds linked through the ship's computer systems. Everything was peaceful and normal. That changed when Lieutenant Dongsu called out from his station. "Admiral, I'm seeing something strange on the sensors." Haywan turned to look at the young officer. "What kind of strange?" "There are ripples in space, Admiral, like something very large is moving through dimensions we can't see." This was impossible. No known technology could travel through other dimensions. The greatest scientists in the galaxy had tried for thousands of years to figure out how to do it. The laws of physics simply didn't allow it. "Show me," Haywan ordered. The main screen filled with sensor data. Dongsu was right. There were waves moving through space itself. The waves were getting stronger, coming closer. Whatever was causing them had to be enormous. "Admiral," called out Communications Officer Minho, "I'm picking up gravitational distortions. Something is about to come out of somewhere." Haywan stood up from her chair. In her 40 years of service, she had never seen anything like this. "All stations, battle alert. Raise shields and charge weapons." The crew moved quickly to follow her orders. The Crystal Sword's defenses came online and its plasma cannons warmed up. Around them, the other ships in the patrol fleet did the same. They had 12 vessels total, more than enough to handle any normal threat. Then space itself seemed to tear open. What came through the opening made Haywan's breath stop in her throat. Ships appeared, but calling them ships didn't seem right. They were massive beyond anything she had ever seen. The smallest one was larger than her entire fleet put together. Their hulls were made of some metal that seemed to bend light around it, making them hard to look at directly. "How many?" Haywan whispered. 17 ships, Admiral," Dongsu reported, his voice shaking. "The largest one is..." "It's 50 kilometers long, 50 kilometers. The biggest ship in the Galactic Council's fleet was only 5 kilometers long. These vessels were like floating cities." "Admiral," Minho called out, "they're moving into formation. Perfect formation. I've never seen ships move so smoothly together." Haywan watched as the giant ships arranged themselves in a pattern that looked almost like art. Every movement was precise, no wasted motion. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Try to contact them," she ordered. "Use all standard galactic languages." Minho sent out the standard first contact message in the 12 most common languages used by space-traveling species. He included mathematical concepts and star charts to show peaceful intent. This was the way things had been done for thousands of years when meeting new species. The response came immediately, but not through their communication systems. Instead, a voice spoke directly into Haywan's mind. It was calm and clear, speaking perfect Vectari as if the speaker had been born on her home world. "We are returning home. Stand aside," every person on the bridge gasped. The voice had spoken to all of them at once inside their heads. This was supposed to be impossible. Only the Mordun could speak mind to mind, and even they needed special training and could only reach other Mordun. "Admiral," whispered Tactical Officer Sung Ho, "they're ships. They're not showing up properly on our sensors. It's like they're only partly there." Haywan looked at her sensor displays. Sung Ho was right. The massive ships appeared solid to her eyes, but their sensors couldn't get clear readings. It was as if the ships existed in normal space and somewhere else at the same time. "Admiral," Minho said quietly, "I'm getting messages from the other ships in our fleet." They all heard the voice too. "Everyone's asking for orders." Haywan stared at the alien fleet. "Returning home," the voice had said. But returning from where? And who were they? She made a decision that would change galactic history. Send a message to Galactic Council headquarters. Tell them we have made contact with an unknown species. Ships of unprecedented size and technology. Request immediate backup and scientific teams. "Admiral," Dongsu said, "the alien ships are moving. They're just flying past us." Indeed, the massive vessels were moving forward, completely ignoring the Vectari patrol fleet. They traveled at a speed that should have been impossible for ships so large. No engines could push something that massive so fast. As the lead ship passed close to the crystal sword, Haywan got a better look at its hull. The metal seemed to flow like liquid while staying solid. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with soft light. She had studied the writing systems of every known species in the galaxy. These symbols were completely unknown. "Follow them," she ordered, "but keep our distance. I want to see where they're going." The alien fleet moved deeper into galactic space toward regions where billions of beings lived and worked. Their ships made no sound, left no energy trail, and moved as if the normal rules of space travel didn't apply to them. As Haywan watched them disappear into the distance, she realized that everything the galaxy thought it knew about technology, about what was possible, had just become meaningless. These beings, whoever they were, had capabilities far beyond anything any galactic species had ever achieved. She thought about the voice in her head, the perfect language skills, the casual way it had dismissed them. "We are returning home," it had said. Not "we come in peace" or "we seek trade" or any of the usual first contact phrases. Returning home, which meant they had been here before. Long ago, these beings had been in galactic space, and now they were back. The question that would keep Haywan awake for many nights was simple. What had they become during their time away? The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council took place on Nexus Prime, the capital world that had been neutral ground for over 10,000 years. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall, their voices filling the air with worried chatter in dozens of languages. Chancellor Jae-soon of the Morden Collective stood at the central podium. His large pale head showed the stress lines that appeared when his species was deeply troubled. As the most powerful telepath in the galaxy, he had tried to reach out to these mysterious newcomers. The attempt had failed completely. "Fellow beings," Jae-sun began, his mental voice reaching every mind in the hall. "We face a threat unlike any in our recorded history. These ships, these creatures, they possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look like children's toys." High Crystallarch Do-hyun of the Vectari Empire rose from her crystal throne. Her body sparkled with the inner light that showed deep thought among her people. "Perhaps threat is too strong a word, Chancellor. They have shown no hostile intent. They simply ignored our patrol fleet and continued on their way." "Ignored us?" Jason's mental voice carried waves of anger. "They treated our ships like we treat space dust, something beneath notice. This cannot be allowed to continue." Admiral Kyung-soo, the highest-ranking military officer present, activated the holographic display at the center of the hall. Images of the alien ships appeared, massive and strange, their flowing metal hulls catching light in impossible ways. "We have analyzed every piece of sensor data from the encounter," Kyung-soo reported. "These ships appear to bend space around them. They move without visible engines. Their hulls are made from materials that don't exist in our periodic tables, and somehow they can speak directly into minds across species barriers." A representative from the insectoid hive mind clicked his mandibles nervously. "If they can enter our thoughts, how do we know they aren't listening to us right now?" The hall fell silent at this terrible possibility. Every species had secrets, plans, and private thoughts they wouldn't want alien minds to discover. Meanwhile, 50 light-years away, Captain Soman stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, humanity's lead exploration vessel. The ship was impressive by human standards. 3 kilometers of advanced technology that could reshape matter at the atomic level. But compared to the massive colony ships and city-sized manufacturing vessels following behind, it was quite small. So Min watched the holographic displays that showed real-time images of the Galactic Council meeting. Human technology had been monitoring galactic communications for decades without anyone noticing. She could see the fear in the alien leaders' eyes as they talked about humanity's return. "They're frightened," observed Science Officer Bonhua, his enhanced mind processing thousands of data streams simultaneously. "Their technology peaked about 15,000 years ago, and has barely improved since then. They've become comfortable with their limitations. Can you blame them?" Soman replied. "They think they're the most advanced beings in the universe. Learning that you're actually quite primitive would be scary for anyone." On the bridge's tactical display, Commander Tae-hyun studied the positions of galactic military forces. Every major fleet was moving toward human space. It was an impressive show of force by galactic standards. Thousands of ships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. "They're really going to try to fight us," Taehyun said with something like sadness in his voice. After 48,000 years of evolution, we hoped to return to a galaxy that had grown wise. Instead, we find children playing with dangerous toys. Back on Nexus Prime, the debate continued. War leader Suk Jin of the Gorthak Empire slammed his armored fist on his speaking platform. Words solve nothing, he growled. These invaders, whoever they are, must learn that this galaxy belongs to us. I call for immediate military action. And I call for caution, Do-hyun replied. We know nothing about their capabilities. Attacking unknown forces is the height of foolishness. Chancellor Jae-sun's mental voice cut through the arguments. I have made my decision. We cannot allow these beings to travel freely through our space, ignoring our authority. The Galactic Defense Fleet will intercept them and demand proper diplomatic contact. The vote was called. Species after species registered their choice. Some for military action, some for peaceful contact, others for simply hiding until the strangers went away. In the end, the war faction won by a narrow margin. Admiral Kyung-soo received his orders with a heavy heart. He was a good military leader, but he was also smart enough to recognize when his forces might be outmatched. Still, orders were orders. Gather the fleet, he commanded. All available ships from all member species. If we're going to do this, we'll do it right. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history began assembling. 10,000 warships from dozens of different species. Their combined firepower enough to crack planets. The pride of galactic civilization. Crystalline Vectari dreadnoughts. Psychic Morden battleships, massive Gorthak war platforms, and swift attack craft from 100 other worlds. Captain So-min watched the enemy fleet gather through sensors that could observe individual atoms across interstellar distances. The alien ships were impressive in their way, crude but functional, built by species doing their best with limited understanding of physics. It's almost sad, said Lieutenant Commander Minji, the youngest human ship captain at only 342 years old. Her vessel, the Star Dancer, could have handled the entire alien fleet alone, but Minji took no pleasure in the coming confrontation. They're doing what they think is right, So-min replied, protecting their territory from unknown invaders. We would have done the same thing back when we were like them. Admiral Ki-young, commanding the human expeditionary force from his flagship Prometheus Ascendant, made the final decision about how to respond to the gathering alien fleet. We will meet them in battle, he announced to his fleet commanders. But this will be a teaching moment, not a slaughter. They need to understand what they're dealing with. But they also need to survive that understanding. The battle would take place in the Kepler Nebula, a region of space both sides considered strategically important. The aliens saw it as a natural fortress where they could use the nebula's gas and dust to hide their movements. Humans saw it as a convenient location where they could demonstrate their capabilities without threatening any inhabited worlds. As both fleets moved toward their destiny, Captain So-min thought about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. 48,000 years of growth, learning, and transformation. They had solved the problems of aging, disease, and death. They had learned to reshape matter and energy at will. They had expanded their consciousness beyond the limits of individual minds, and now they were about to show a frightened galaxy what evolution could accomplish when guided by intelligence, determination, and time. The alien fleet would arrive at Kepler Nebula in 18 hours. The human fleet was already there, waiting in dimensions the aliens couldn't perceive, ready to reveal themselves when the moment was right. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity had not just survived their long absence. They had become something magnificent. Admiral Hae-won stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the largest military fleet in galactic history took position around the Kepler Nebula. 10,000 ships spread across space in perfect formation, the pride of every major civilization in the galaxy. She had been given command of the Vectari battle group, 500 crystal ships that sparkled like gems against the dark nebula. To her left, the Morden psychic battleships hummed with mental energy. To her right, the massive Gorthak war platforms bristled with enough weapons to level continents. All ships report ready for battle, announced Communications Officer Minho. The fleet awaits your orders, Admiral. Admiral Kyung-soo's voice came through the command channel from his flagship at the center of the formation. All forces maintain position. We will show these aliens that the galaxy is not defenseless. When they arrive, we will demand surrender. If they refuse, he didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what would happen if the strangers refused to surrender. Lieutenant Dong-Su checked his sensors for the 100th time. Still no sign of them, Admiral. The nebula is completely empty except for us. Haewon nodded. The aliens had been moving toward this region for days, but now they seemed to have vanished. Perhaps they had detected the Galactic fleet and decided to avoid a fight. That would be the smart choice. She was wrong. Reality began to bend. At first, it was just a shimmer in space, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then the shimmer grew stronger and space itself seemed to fold inward. The nebula's gas and dust swirled in patterns that hurt to look at, as if the universe was being turned inside out. Admiral, Dong-Su shouted. Something's happening. The sensors are going crazy. Before Haewon could respond, the human fleet appeared. They didn't arrive from hyperspace like normal ships. They didn't accelerate from behind asteroids where they might have been hiding. They simply became real, stepping out of dimensions that shouldn't exist into normal space. 17 ships materialized around the Galactic fleet, their positions planned with mathematical precision. The smallest human vessel was larger than most galactic dreadnoughts. The largest was so big that its shadow fell across dozens of alien ships. How? Whispered Tactical Officer Sung-ho. How did they get so close without us detecting them? Captain So-min looked out from the bridge of the Eternal Dawn at the sea of alien ships surrounding her small fleet. They were brave, these galactic species, primitive and limited but brave. They had come here to fight beings they didn't understand, with technology they couldn't hope to match. Open a communication channel, she ordered. Let's give them one last chance. Her voice reached every ship in the Galactic fleet, speaking directly into the minds of their crews in their own languages. You have assembled an impressive force, but you don't understand what you're facing. Withdraw now, and no harm will come to you. Admiral Kyung-Soo's response came immediately through normal radio channels. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in galactic space. Surrender immediately or face the consequences, So-min sighed. They won't listen. Banhua, prepare demonstration protocols. Keep casualties to 0 if possible. Understood. Captain, the battle began when the HFY War platform opened fire. War leader Suk-jin had never been patient, and the sight of alien ships appearing from nowhere around his fleet triggered every aggressive instinct his species possessed. His flagship's main guns fired plasma bolts that could melt mountains. The energy beam struck the hull of the nearest human ship and simply disappeared. Commander Dong-Woo, piloting the assault frigate Quantum Echo, watched the alien weapons fire bounce harmlessly off his ship's dimensional shields. The plasma beams passed through the space where his ship existed without touching it. His vessel was anchored in normal space but projected most of its mass into parallel dimensions where alien weapons couldn't reach. Poor things, he muttered, then activated his ship's response. The Quantum Echo didn't fire back in any way the aliens could understand. Instead, it reached out with gravitational manipulators and began gently rearranging the matter around the HFY platform. The nebula's gas and dust suddenly compressed into high-density projectiles that struck the alien ship's shields with the force of meteors. But even that was too gentle. Engineer Yu-jin, monitoring the battle from humanity's mobile command station, shook her head as she watched alien ships firing uselessly at targets they couldn't properly hit. Captain So-min, she reported, the alien weapons are operating on principles we abandoned 30,000 years ago. Their shields can't stop our basic manipulation tools, and their sensors can't track our ships when we're phase-shifted. So-min made a decision that would echo through galactic history. All ships initiate educational protocols. Show them what we can do, but don't destroy them. They need to learn, not die. What happened next would be studied by military strategists for thousands of years. The human ships began to demonstrate technologies that violated everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. The Star Dancer, commanded by young Minji, simply reached out and turned off the engines of 12 alien vessels simultaneously. Her ship's matter manipulators worked through shields and armor as if they weren't there, gently disconnecting power systems without harming the crews. The Prometheus Ascendant, Admiral Ki-young's flagship, showed the Galactic fleet what real firepower looked like. Instead of energy weapons or missiles, it projected controlled gravity fields that compressed sections of the nebula into temporary stars. The new stars burned for exactly 30 seconds before being safely dispersed, their light illuminating the battlefield and showing the aliens that humans could create and destroy stellar objects at will. Commander Tae-hyun, aboard the science vessel Deep Current, demonstrated humanity's mastery over time itself. His ship began moving through the battle in temporal loops, appearing in multiple places simultaneously. To the aliens watching, it looked like he was fighting entire battles in the space between heartbeats. The Vectari computers tried desperately to calculate, firing solutions against targets that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. The most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy crashed within minutes. Overwhelmed by variables that violated every known law of physics, Admiral Haiwan watched in growing horror as her sensors showed impossible readings. Human ships were existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, manipulating gravity like children playing with toys, and treating the fundamental forces of the universe as mere suggestions. "Admiral," Minho called out, his voice shaking, "they're not even trying to hurt us. They're playing with us." It was true. As the one-sided battle continued, it became clear that the human ships could have destroyed the entire galactic fleet in seconds. Instead, they were carefully demonstrating their capabilities while ensuring that no alien crew members were seriously harmed. When the Eternal Dawn began picking up escape pods from ships that were still intact, the galactic fleet finally understood what they were facing. These weren't just advanced aliens. They were beings who had transcended the normal limitations of matter, energy, space, and time. The final demonstration came when Captain Soman decided to show the aliens something truly impossible. Her ship reached out across interstellar distances and brought a small moon from a nearby uninhabited system into the battle zone. The moon appeared in the middle of the galactic fleet formation, causing no damage but proving that humans could move celestial objects across space as easily as picking up a pebble. Admiral Kyung-Soo's voice came across all communication channels, defeated and awed. All ships withdraw. Retreat to safe distance immediately." The great galactic fleet, the pride of hundreds of civilizations, began a hasty retreat from the Kepler Nebula. But the human ships made no attempt to pursue them. They simply watched as the aliens fled, their massive vessels hovering silently in space like patient teachers waiting for frightened students to return. As her ship limped away from the battlefield, Admiral Haiwan realized that everything had changed. The galaxy's entire understanding of technology, warfare, and their place in the universe had been shattered in less than 10 minutes. Behind them, the human fleet began the long process of healing the damage done to space-time during the battle. They had made their point. Now it was time to begin the real work of teaching the galaxy what was possible when intelligence, time, and determination came together. The age of galactic ignorance was ending. The age of true learning was about to begin. The news of humanity's overwhelming victory at Kepler Nebula spread through the galaxy like wildfire, but the stories changed as they traveled. Some worlds received reports that downplayed human capabilities to prevent panic. Others got raw sensor data that drove their military analysts to nervous breakdowns. On the crystal world of Vectara Prime, High Crystallarch Du Hyun studied the battle recordings for the 5th time. Her people prided themselves on logic and clear thinking, but what she was seeing made no sense according to any known laws of physics. "Play the sequence again where they moved the moon," she ordered her aide. The holographic display showed the moment when human ships had reached across space and brought a celestial body into the battle zone. Do-hyun's crystalline form flickered with stress patterns as she tried to understand how such a thing was possible. "Honored Crystallarch," her aide said carefully, "perhaps we should consider that our understanding of physics is incomplete." Meanwhile, on the water world of Morden, Chancellor Jason sat in his meditation chamber, his powerful telepathic abilities focused on a single question. How had the humans spoken directly into alien minds across species barriers? Even the most skilled Morden telepaths could only communicate with their own kind. 3 days after the battle, Captain Soman found herself appointed as humanity's first galactic ambassador. The role had been created specifically for her by the Eternal Council, humanity's governing body that existed in pocket dimensions around Earth. Her first official act was to address the reformed Galactic Council. The meeting took place on Nexus Prime, but this time the Great Hall had been modified using human technology. Beings from different environments could now coexist comfortably. Aquatic species swam through structured water fields. Energy beings danced in contained plasma streams, and crystalline entities resonated in harmonic chambers. So Min stood at the center of the hall, her words reaching every mind present. For 48,000 years, humanity evolved in isolation. We enhanced our bodies, expanded our consciousness, and developed technologies that your languages lack words to describe. We did not seek conflict. We sought perfection. The assembled representatives listened in awed silence. Many had expected threats or demands for surrender. Instead, they heard something they had never experienced before. The voice of a truly advanced civilization offering guidance rather than conquest. High Commander Inho, leading humanity's integration forces, had already begun the delicate process of introducing human technology to galactic civilization. His ships appeared at crisis points throughout the galaxy, quietly preventing wars and resolving conflicts with casual ease. The Gorthak Empire's attempt to invade the peaceful Hellion Republic had been stopped when human vessels simply moved the entire Gorthak War fleet to an empty star system. Both sides found their ships undamaged, but suddenly millions of light years from their target, with a polite message explaining that aggressive actions would not be tolerated. The challenge, Inho explained to his staff, is not technical. Our ships can solve any problem these species face. The challenge is psychological. How do you teach calculus to beings who are still learning basic arithmetic? Dr. Sun He, humanity's leading expert in galactic psychology, established research stations throughout the galaxy to study how different species were adapting to humanity's return. Her findings were both fascinating and troubling. Some species, like the scholarly Ethereal Consortium, threw themselves into studying human knowledge with enthusiasm that impressed even their human tutors. They established joint research programs and began making rapid advances in their understanding of advanced physics. Others struggled with the transition. The proud stellar dominion attempted to maintain their independence by isolating themselves in their home systems. They declared that they would rather remain primitive than accept help from aliens, even aliens as advanced as humans. The most interesting case was the Aquatic Abyssal Collective. Their distributed intelligence networks bore surprising similarities to humanity's early neural linking experiments. Admiral Ne Young, commanding the science vessel Deep Current, began working closely with abyssal researchers to explore whether they might be capable of more advanced enhancement. Their thought patterns are remarkably flexible, Ne Young reported to the Eternal Council. With proper guidance, they might be the first galactic species capable of true consciousness expansion. However, the real challenge came from species that simply couldn't comprehend what they were witnessing. The insectoid hive mind of Xerion interpreted human technology as evidence of supernatural abilities. They began restructuring their entire society around worshipping humanity as divine beings. Engineer Seok Jin, tasked with establishing communication protocols with the Xerion hive, found himself accidentally becoming the central figure in an alien religion. Every technical explanation he gave was interpreted as divine revelation. Every casual demonstration of human technology was seen as a miracle. "They've built temples in my honor," he reported with bemused frustration. "I showed them how to purify water using molecular manipulation, and they think I'm a god of healing." The situation became more complex when other species began responding to humanity's presence in unexpected ways. The nomadic voidwalkers, who had wandered between stars for millennia without settling anywhere, suddenly began gathering around human ships. They seemed drawn to the advanced technology like moths to flame. Chancellor Jae-sun of the Morden Collective attempted to organize a resistance movement. He was convinced that humanity could be defeated through superior numbers and coordinated strategy. His secret meetings with other species leaders were already known to human intelligence networks before he had finished planning them human consciousness linking. Technology had long ago learned to monitor quantum probability fields that revealed intentions before they became actions. Every plot, every plan, every secret conspiracy was visible to human sensors the moment someone began thinking about it. Commander Wu Jin, assigned as human coordinator for galactic affairs, found himself in the uncomfortable position of having to gently discourage resistance movements without seeming threatening. "We know about your plans," he told Jae-sun during a private meeting. "We've known since before you finished forming them. But we're not here to rule you. We're here to help you grow." The revelation that humans could read thoughts before they were fully formed sent shockwaves through galactic intelligence services. Every spy network, every secret agency, every covert operation suddenly became pointless. You cannot hide plans from beings who can see the future consequences of thoughts. Some species adapted to this new reality better than others. The Pragmatic Merchant Guild simply gave up on keeping secrets and began asking humans for business advice directly. Their trade profits increased by 3,000% within a year. Others, like the Paranoid Shadow Syndicate, became convinced that humans were preparing to enslave all galactic minds. They developed elaborate mental shielding, techniques that did absolutely nothing to hide their thoughts from human sensors. The breakthrough came when Dr. Jung-Soo successfully created the first interdimensional research collaborative. Scientists from dozens of species worked alongside human researchers in laboratories that existed partially outside normal space-time. Here, experiments could be conducted safely even if they resulted in localized reality failures. The participating scientists made rapid advances in their understanding of advanced physics. More importantly, they began to see humanity not as conquerors or gods, but as teachers who had walked a longer path of development. "They're just like us," reported Vectari scientist Hyun Jin after spending a month in the collaborative. "They think, they question, they make mistakes. They've just had more time to learn from their mistakes." This realization began to spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity wasn't a completely alien force. They were what other species might become. Given enough time and proper guidance, the real change began when Commander Hyunwoo's team discovered that several galactic species possessed latent capabilities that could be enhanced using modified human techniques. The Abyssal Collective's distributed consciousness could be expanded. The Vectari's crystalline structure could be modified to process information at faster rates. Even the aggressive Gorthak showed potential for mental enhancement that could reduce their violent tendencies. As the first generation of enhanced aliens began to emerge from human-guided programs, they started to understand what humanity had truly achieved. The humans hadn't just developed better technology, they had evolved beyond the normal limitations of biological existence while maintaining their essential nature. For the first time since humanity's return, the galaxy began to feel hope instead of fear. These powerful beings weren't here to conquer or destroy. They were here to share the gift of evolution itself. 3 years had passed since humanity's return, and the galaxy had become unrecognizable. The old trade routes had been replaced by dimensional corridors that could transport entire fleets instantly across galactic distances. Wars had become impossible when human ships could simply move aggressive fleets to empty regions of space. Famine had ended when human matter manipulators could create food from basic elements. Captain So-min, now bearing the title of Prime Ambassador, stood before the Grand Assembly of Terra Nova. The hall existed in folded space-time, allowing beings from 400 different species to attend meetings that would have been impossible just years before. Swimming through structured water fields, the aquatic representatives of the Abyssal Collective had become humanity's most successful students. Their enhanced minds could now process information at rates approaching human levels. In harmonic chambers, crystalline beings from the Vectari Empire resonated with frequencies that carried complex mathematical concepts. "The question before us," So-min addressed the assembly, "is not whether the galaxy will change, it already has. The question is whether that change will come through willing cooperation or necessary intervention." Her words carried weight because everyone present had seen examples of both. Admiral Ki-young's integration forces continued their quiet work across the galaxy, preventing disasters before they could develop into catastrophes. The Helix War between two minor species had been prevented when human ships simply disabled all weapons in both fleets, then transported their leaders to a neutral meeting ground, where they could discuss their differences peacefully. Dr. Jung-Soo's Interdimensional Research Collaborative had become the galaxy's premier scientific institution. Researchers from dozens of species worked alongside human mentors in laboratories, where the laws of physics could be temporarily suspended for experimental purposes. The breakthrough discoveries came regularly now. Vectari scientists, their crystalline minds enhanced by human techniques, had learned to grow materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Modern telepaths, their abilities amplified by human consciousness linking technology, achieved collective intelligence levels that approached human standards. But the greatest success story was the Abyssal Collective. Admiral Ne Young had worked closely with their distributed intelligence networks, helping them expand their consciousness beyond the limitations of individual minds. The first generation of enhanced abyssal beings could now think in quantum concepts and manipulate matter at the molecular level. "We understand now," reported abyssal researcher Curie, her enhanced mind speaking through water-based communication systems that translated her thoughts into words. "Humanity didn't just develop better technology. You learned to think differently about what was possible. However, not every species adapted successfully to the new galactic order. The insectoid hive mind of Xerion had gone too far in their worship of humanity. Engineer Seok Jin found himself dealing with alien beings who treated his every word as divine command and built increasingly elaborate temples in his honor. "I told them how to optimize their food production," he complained to his human colleagues, "and they created a religion around agricultural efficiency. Their priests now perform sacred rituals whenever they plant crops." The situation with the Xerion highlighted one of humanity's biggest challenges: how to help primitive species advance without accidentally becoming their gods. Several worlds had declared human representatives to be divine beings, creating awkward diplomatic situations that required careful handling. More troubling were the species that simply refused to adapt. The Shadow Syndicate had retreated to heavily fortified worlds where they practiced increasingly paranoid isolation. They had convinced themselves that humanity's helpful actions were part of some elaborate plan for galactic domination. "Let them be," advised Commander Wu Jin during a strategy meeting. "Forced evolution never works. They'll come around when they're ready, or they'll remain as they are. Either choice is acceptable." The real transformation was happening at the individual level. Young beings from hundreds of species were volunteering for human enhancement programs. They emerged with expanded consciousness, improved physical capabilities, and fundamentally different ways of understanding reality. These enhanced beings became bridges between humanity and their own species. They could explain human concepts in terms their people could understand, and they could help humans better appreciate the unique perspectives of different galactic cultures. Engineer Mi Young, overseeing the construction of transcendental infrastructure projects, watched with satisfaction as alien and human technologies began to merge in unprecedented ways. Vectari crystal growth techniques, enhanced by human dimensional manipulation, created materials that could exist in multiple states simultaneously. The results were ships, buildings, and devices that seemed to violate physics while actually operating according to principles the galaxy was only beginning to understand. The galaxy's first truly collaborative project began when the Ethereal Consortium proposed building a research station that could study the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. The project required expertise from dozens of species, human-level technology, and resources gathered from across the galaxy. The Consciousness Observatory, as it came to be known, was built in a carefully maintained pocket dimension where thoughts could be observed directly as quantum phenomena. The research conducted there led to breakthroughs in understanding how awareness itself functioned, opening new possibilities for mental enhancement that even humans hadn't fully explored. As these successes accumulated, resistance to humanity's presence began to crumble. Even the proud Stellar Dominion eventually asked for help when their sun began showing signs of premature aging. Human stellar engineers fixed the problem in a matter of hours, extending the star's life by billions of years. The turning point came during what became known as the Great Awakening. Enhanced beings from every species that had participated in human programs began to reach new levels of consciousness simultaneously. It was as if they had all crossed some invisible threshold together. These awakened beings could perceive multiple dimensions, manipulate matter through conscious intent, and communicate across interstellar distances through quantum-linked awareness. They weren't quite at human levels yet, but they were no longer limited by the biological constraints that had defined their species for millions of years. Captain So-Min's final address to the galaxy came on the 10th anniversary of humanity's return. She stood in the center of a vast holographic display that showed every inhabited world in real time, her words reaching every conscious mind in galactic space. For 48,000 years, we perfected ourselves not because we believed we were superior, but because we hoped to be worthy of the universe that created us, worthy of the responsibility that comes with power. worthy of the trust that weaker beings must place in stronger ones. She paused, looking out at the representatives of hundreds of species who had gathered to hear her words. Today, we invite you to join us not as subjects but as partners in the next phase of galactic evolution. The universe is vast beyond imagination, filled with wonders we have barely begun to explore. Together we can reach heights that no single species could achieve alone. The galaxy's response was not unanimous. It never could be among such diverse species, but it was hopeful. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy's inhabitants began working together not out of necessity or fear, but out of shared purpose and genuine cooperation. Human construction fleets began building projects that would span millions of years, ring worlds around dead stars, consciousness transfer networks that connected distant galaxies, and research stations positioned at the edge of known reality where the fundamental laws of existence could be studied safely. The i.e. greatest discovery came when enhanced beings from multiple species working together achieved something that even humans had never accomplished. They created new forms of consciousness that existed independently of biological substrate. These beings of pure thought became the galaxy's first truly immortal intelligences, capable of exploring concepts that physical minds couldn't grasp. As the story reached its conclusion, Admiral Haywan, now enhanced and serving as liaison between the Vectari Empire and humanity, reflected on the journey her people had taken. 3 years ago, they had been the most advanced species in the galaxy. Now they were students learning from teachers who had walked a much longer path. We thought we knew everything, she said to her old crew, most of whom had also chosen enhancement. We thought the galaxy was already fully explored, all its secrets revealed. We were wrong about everything, and that's the most wonderful discovery of all. In the depths of space, human ships continued their patient work, preventing disasters, facilitating communication, and gently guiding younger civilizations toward their potential. But now they were joined by enhanced beings from hundreds of species, all working together toward goals that would have been impossible for any single race to achieve. The galaxy had awakened from its long slumber of complacency and limitation. The real adventure was just beginning, and this time everyone was invited to participate in shaping the future of